Welcome to the Extra Time Podcast, where you'll hear sports stories you might not have heard about from people you might not have heard of. Let's get into this week's show.
Hello and welcome back into the Extra Time Podcast. A very, very merry Grand Final week. It's AFLW Grand Final week and we already know it's going to be a belter. What 3 weeks of finals we've had already. I'm Aiden Box, as you know, your host. I'm here with Mark Woods once again, and if you haven't donated already, there's still a couple of days left of Movember. The Mo's going strongly, and I'm just a couple kilometres off my 60k target. Still a few $100 off my money target though, so if you can, hit the link in my bio or in the advertisements for this episode, and make sure you donate a few dollars, as much as you can, to that cause. It's a really good one. But we'll get into it now, Woodsy, because I just can't wait. It's on Sunday. It'll be North Melbourne and Brisbane to contest this year's AFLW Grand Final.
Well, I know you're stressing out a little bit because of the past few weeks. You've said North Melbourne can't win it, and here they are in one step away from actually proving you wrong. But the games on the weekend were absolutely amazing. I know I messaged you images of kangaroos as the game was going on, and I was hoping for them to go over the line as they did, and defeated a strong Crows outfit in the process.
Yeah, well, I do have to say now, I'll be a man and I'll admit that I was wrong, because they do have a chance now. Obviously, they have half a chance of winning this grand final, as does Brisbane. They have the other half of the chance, because one team does have to win, and if you make the grand final, you can win the grand final, because 2 teams are in it, one team goes home the winner with the cup. But yeah, prelim weekend is just the absolute best. If it's not the best, the grand final is, but geez, it's close, because the prelims, it's said everywhere in every sport, you almost play harder because you know what's on the line. In a grand final, you play a bit more freely because you know it's the last game no matter what. But those prelims were so desperate, especially the one on Saturday night, which I'm just mesmerised by. I still keep thinking about it. I watched both, but I still keep thinking about Saturday night because it was played in such desperate, it was such desperate measures, but at the same time, the skill level was impressive. Like, Brisbane were hitting all their targets under pressure, extreme pressure from the Cats, which was their thing. Their inside midfielders were insane, tackles everywhere, and they were still able to execute, which on Sunday you didn't really see. You saw a bit more of a scrappy game, but on Saturday night it was nuts and high scoring too.
I think one of the biggest factors is the difference between the AFL and the AFLW. Obviously, AFL and AFLW, they have home prelims, but I think the biggest thing was with the AFLW was Brisbane played first, so they needed to win, right? Obviously, go into the grand final, but they knew that had Adelaide have won, they would be playing in Brisbane. So it's kind of that, what do you play for and whatnot. North Melbourne just had to win, and they knew they would be playing it at Icon Park. And so it was kind of, I was watching it on Sunday, I'm there going...
It's really cool because you don't see it too much in footy, or any football for that matter. It's a very NBA sort of thing. It's a very basketball-like thing where you can win, say in the NBA, you can win your conference finals, but you might have to wait. If that one seed is in the other conference, you might have to wait and say, are we going there first or are we at home? Sort of thing. And you worry about that. And they actually asked a few Brisbane players. I remember I was watching the broadcast and they had a few players on and they were asking about it. And I think it was Shannon Campbell who ended up saying, yeah, look, we're going to have it on tomorrow. We're going to have to watch it because not just for scouting, for player analysis, but because we want to know where we're going. We don't want to know if we're staying home or we're getting on that plane and getting ready to go down to Icon Park, which is where it's going to be.
It's also interesting to see, I'd love to know what they were thinking in the moment watching their game, who they were going for. Would they much rather play North Melbourne in Melbourne or playing Adelaide in Brisbane? Yes, they defeated Adelaide a couple of weeks ago, so would that confidence have been there, knowing, whoever we play? Is it a case of wherever we play, whoever we play, we're confident we can get the cup?
I think it's going to be a big difference, and that's, again, like you say, another difference between the AFLW and the AFL. Just because it's such a young competition, I don't think they've developed to a point where, this is no disrespect at all, it's just normal to any league. I think it's not quite developed to a point where you're confident going anywhere and playing anywhere. I think there actually is that home ground or home state, definitely home city advantage. because it is going to be a big thing. I know Brisbane's played at home the last week. They had that week off. But flying down to Melbourne would be intimidating for them a little bit, especially because they're a little bit unproven themselves. Historically, they're proven for sure. They've done it before. However, I think this season they finished 4th, so they've finished below the team they'll play in North Melbourne. They have beaten a few teams in the top 4, but they can be shaky. They're in great form, but I think that home ground advantage for North is massive. And they've played in Melbourne. They played Melbourne in Melbourne. They beat them. And now they played the prelim in Melbourne. They won that. And now they get...
They know how to play that ground now.
They know, exactly. And, we saw it with Collingwood in the AFL.
Yeah.
Again, completely different beast. But being at home for the whole month of the finals is huge. And Brisbane's already travelled. Again, like you said, they did beat the Crows. But, yeah, boy, it's going to be tough. And something else that's going to be tough that I have to mention, I'm not really sure we're going to see Dakota Davidson. I was talking to a friend of the show, or part of our setup, Simone Wern, and she was saying, I really strongly doubt you'll see Dakota Davidson in the grand final, and that's huge. I can't really explain to you how massive that is for Brisbane. Watching that game, I tell you, if she was out there for the whole fourth quarter, she wasn't. If she was, they would have won by a few goals because she's that much of a difference maker. Absolute force in the forward line, but can go everywhere. She can go in any part of the ground and she impacts it because it's just so much of a presence around the ball. The smarts is elite as well, and just the determination to want to win and make the teammates better and push and pull the team over the line continuously. Dakota Davidson's done it all year, and unfortunately I don't think she'll be able to do it in the grand final, and it was really, really sad. The scenes on the weekend looked like a knee injury or definitely a leg injury, and she was sitting on the bench. They didn't have a great angle of it because she was at the back of the bench, but absolutely distraught. Such a crucial player for the Lions, so going to be very hard for them to make that up. They made it up beautifully at the end of the game, though. When Geelong were coming really hard, when they really needed to put some forward pressure on, they were able to switch some magnets and get that done. So that's just a testament to the sort of team that Starcevic and his team is. That they can just find a way and get through, and that's the one thing that I reckon they have over the top, which a team like they always do, that experience, the fact that they've been there before, the fact that they know they're good, they know what to do in a grand final. That's their difference maker, but I do think not having Davidson, and I don't want to go and rule her out and, cancel everything, but if they are without Davidson, it's going to be very, very hard. But I think they're a good enough team to definitely take it out for sure.
It's one of those things where you're talking it up like there's this one player and that's the determining factor of this game. And I'm looking at North Melbourne's, I'm there going, it's so even with or without her. Like, it's not a case of if she plays, Brisbane definitely win. If she doesn't play, it's going to be even. I'm excited to see this game, whether she plays or not. I think either way, it's going to be a very close game. I think North Melbourne have shown over the past 2 weeks or 3 weeks that they've been able to hang with the best from your perspective of that. They are this tier below, but then they've been able to step up their pressure and able to do it. Whether they can do it here, I mean, if they watched how Geelong were able to keep in the game, I think that's going to be a crucial indicator of if they can actually do it or not.
Yeah, it's just going to be an absolute thriller, and I can already tell. Like, both games on the weekend, within points, I mean, the North get in by a point, and that was desperate at the end of that one. And the one on Saturday night, just 4 points. And I'm trying to find the scoreline here because I tell you what, that second quarter is probably, without doubt, the greatest quarter of AFLW football I've seen. It was desperate, like I said, but the skill level did not drop. Players ball pinging end to end, and there was about 4 goals within about 4 minutes. Both sides scoring, pressure on. The crowd was awesome as well up in Brisbane. They had their men's team there, which was amazing because they had an incredible season as well. So awesome year to be a Lions fan. But that second quarter, after a first quarter that was a real prelim sort of feel, they were feeling themselves out. They weren't sure which way the momentum was going to go. There was pressure on. And then second quarter, it just went to another level. highlight plays everywhere, and I was on the edge of my seat. I was absolutely loving it.
I think just got the scoreline up. At quarter time, it was 2-1 to 1 point in Lions' favour. And in the second quarter, Geelong kicked the first, and then, as you said, there was those 4 goals. So it was 4-2 to 3-3 at half time.
5 goals in the second quarter.
Yeah, so it was one of those things. And then
in a game that only had 11.
So when you said that 4 goals in that brief period of time, after half time, there were only 4 goals kicked. That's how pressure-packed it was. It was 2 goals apiece.
And that's why the whole game as a whole will go down as one of the best ever, because it had everything. And I love games like that where it starts one way, and that's why we have 4 quarters. Starts one way and you think, it's going to be one of those slog games. Second quarter, shootout. Third quarter, all right, we've got to stop scoring, so both teams go a bit more defensively, and then it comes a bit more of an arm wrestle. And in the fourth quarter, back to desperate. Desperate everywhere. Lions without Davison, can they hold on? The Cats, as their run continue. And that's exactly what you want out of a prelim, whether it's men's or women's footy. Absolutely excellent. I loved it. And, yeah, I'd go watch it again straight away if someone asked me. But some players out of that one, well, it was all or Dyer. And I've been watching her throughout the finals and throughout the back end of the season. Goes under the radar a little bit, I reckon, because Brisbane at the end of the season were sort of not written off, but not considered as highly maybe as Melbourne and Adelaide. But Dwyer does it all. I just noticed how she uses her pace to get through the contest around the ground and then uses her skill to execute. She had 21 and a really crucial goal as well. And she just bobs out of nowhere, which is what you really want. And then Isabel Dawes, the microwave, I've called her. She popped up. On the call, I think it was Nigel Carmody, that was actually saying that she likes the odd quarters, because in the first quarter she dominated and she didn't do much in the second, and then she came back in the third quarter and turned it on once again. So that's the sort of player you want, though. Sometimes you don't need a full team of players that play every minute really well to the highest of their ability and turn the game on its head. Sometimes you just want players in finals like Dawes, like the microwave. You turn it on for 30 seconds and it gives you something really, really hot. She had 14 tackles, 21 touches, and really turned the game on its head in really crucial times. Like I said, when the game was in those holding periods, she turned it into Brisbane's favour. Ellie Anderson, she has to be mentioned. She's just so consistent in the midfield. And she's going to be crucial this weekend because it's a big midfield they're coming up against. She had 10 tackles and 16 touches as well. And then on the other side, you can't go without mentioning the games of Georgia Press-Parkis and Nina Morrison. I mean, some of the biggest midfield bulls in the AFLW competition. I was sitting there watching it with my lovely partner, Sophie, and she played, I think she said she played against Nina Morrison once, and she just did not get anywhere near her way because she's an absolute jet. And we were just marvelling at the way that Press-Parkis and Morrison can burst out of stoppage, give that handball and get Geelong going. And that's what they tried to do all game, and it almost worked for them, but it's not the fault of those two for that loss because they were mega. And then Courtney Hodder, I mean, absolute game changer up forward. Some of those goals and just the electric play to set up goals inside forward 50 for Brisbane. She only kicked the one, but she felt like every time it would go inside 50, Hodder was part of something. And I really like in her game too. It was like watching Bobby Hill in that grand final. He's not going to go out and get 30. It's like Sirioli as well. It's like those small forwards. They're special. There's something special about them. When the ball goes in that area, they've got the pace and the ability to go and get a score somehow, whether it's themselves, whether they're setting one up, or even if they just take a hanger. And we saw she won Mark of the Year, one of the best marks you'll see as well during the week. So she's another game changer. But that Rose and Crows game, it had me on the edge of my seat because I was getting kangaroo emojis sent left, right and centre. And my call that the Crows were the best team in it and it was theirs to lose wasn't looking great. So it turns out I must have a curse. So this week I might just not tip either team and hopefully we'll have a good game because the Crows just did not have their day at all. They actually did well to stay in that. The way that North Melbourne played them and the way that they really dominated that game, it actually shocked me at times that the Crows were remaining in it because some of the skill errors, I've just not seen that from the Crows. Last week, watching them against Sydney in that semi, I thought this is pristine football. It's perfect. It's out the middle. It's untouched. They're going forward. They've got so many options forward. They're so potent. Then all of a sudden, they go forward in this game and they're just bombing it high. They look like they don't know. They look like they didn't know what they were doing. They look like they just rocked up the pre-season. But that's the pressure the Roos are putting on them. Their defence was outstanding. And I'm going to go out here and say that I was wrong. And people can give me stick for that in the comments, whatever. I'm going to admit it because great people and real men admit when they're wrong. And I was wrong. I was really critical on the Roos defence, and this final series, it's absolutely stepped up. It's proven me so wrong, and I would even go as far as saying it's been the best, maybe the second best in this final series. Brisbane's was quite good, real force intercepting the ball, and I think that's going to be crucial this weekend as well. It's another thing, ability to intercept the ball coming in and forcing a team to kick it high, sort of like Melbourne do with May and Lever in the men's comp, forcing teams to kick it high so they can use those marking presence. And Jasmine Ferguson, just outstanding. I watched her on the weekend, just patrolling, bringing other people into the game, taking intercepts herself, having that confidence to run out and execute that kick coming out of defence. Time and time again was really impressive for me. I just absolutely loved her game. 7 marks, 10 disposals, but just having that strength in defence for North is so crucial to them because it allows that absolutely star-studded midfield to really thrive and really get them working forward. And that's something that was really the difference on the weekend. And the one thing I mentioned, Brisbane's sort of trump card is they've been there before. They've got that experience. They've got the big bodies. North Melbourne's is arguably better, if you ask me, for the modern game. They're the only team I've watched this final series that again and again and again they've done it. So it must be a plan. The only team I've seen actually run from behind with pace and dare. They have, and multiple runners too. So we're talking, and it's very Collingwood-like. Collingwood men's like it. They've got multiple runners every time they get a mark. They've got runners and they just go. And I love it because my Hawks do that in the men's comp, and so it doesn't come off because we're not that good at the moment. But North are good. They're good enough. They've got players everywhere, and every time they want to move the ball forward, they go quick. And that really hurt the Crows on numerous occasions, even if it wasn't neat. And often it wasn't neat. Often they messed up, the kick went along the ground, but it didn't matter because when you're running with pace and dare, you become dangerous. And I think that can be massive this weekend if they can get that going.
Oh, I was watching that game and I'm there going, the North Melbourne got up to that good start. They were able to just hold it and keep Adelaide not really at bay, but not able to convert. And I was looking at the scoreline, and it's 1-5 to the Crows at halftime. As you say, accuracy counts in football I remember, so much.
I remember saying to you, bad kicking is bad football.
Yeah, but I think it's also a testament to North Melbourne to have that pressure, even as Adelaide are pushing forward. The defensive pressure means that they can't straighten up and actually go at it. And I was speechless to see. I was obviously going for North Melbourne just because you're so, again, you no belief in them. And the last few minutes of that game was just on edge. I think they played it perfectly. They kicked 4 behinds, no goals in the last quarter.
They won
by
a
point. They were able
to
hold it. They were just able to hold it when Adelaide were giving it their all. So it gives them a really good stepping stone for next week in the sense of, well, we've just defeated Adelaide at Icon and now we're facing Brisbane and Icon one step away. They're a team that haven't won the flag before. They're this. It will breathe new life into this competition, I think, if they win.
And I'll tell you what, on the back of that, not only have they not won an AFLW flag before, but they've got an AFL men's fan base that has not seen any decent success for 10 years plus. So you already know they're going to be packing the stands. And we're talking to Bodie, Extra Times Bodie Stringer on the Messenger on the weekend. He was there, I'm pretty sure. And he said a couple of weeks ago when they won that qualifying final, he said something like, I don't want to misquote him, but I'm pretty sure he said something like, boy, it was awesome to leave the stadium having won a game like that, because these North Melbourne people deserve this sort of stuff. So if I've been critical of your club and you've stopped listening, please come back, because I'm really impressed with their play. Like you mentioned, they showed elite maturity. Like, that's the thing that really impressed me. During the season, they lost a close one, almost identical to that, against Adelaide by a couple points. And they turned it around, they've done their research, and they've come out composed as ever. They've got this game style where they run and gun, and I think that could be the difference. And the Crows' experience kept them in it, and I always knew it would, because they'd been in such hot form, and if you're in such hot form and winning semis by as much as they did against a good Sydney team, that just doesn't, it can never just go away completely. It can't go away for 4 quarters. It's got to come back. And at one point I knew they were going to come in and just give something and really give it a shake. And they did. They tried the best that they could because they've got that pedigree. But in the end, it was North Melbourne that deserved it because they've turned themselves around. They're a mature team now, and they played the game perfectly at the end. Like you said, they just kept peppering. And when you run from behind, the team defensively has to set up for that. So they have to set up to defend in their forward line. But then if you're able to lock it in, they've got to defend all parts of the ground just to stop you run and scoring. So all North Melbourne has to do is keep it inside forward 50. Even though they generate a lot of their scores from the back half running, if they keep it inside 50, that's the best for them. Because then the teams, the opposition's spread out everywhere trying to defend them, and that's what Adelaide were doing. That's why it was so desperate, and the ball was on the ground a lot. But it was still great to watch, like you said. But yeah, just that ending was insane. When Anne Hatchard took that screamer in the goal square, I nearly just about fell off the couch because I haven't seen many players ever do that in such a clutch moment on top of the shoulders of the pack in the goal square with about 30 centimetres to spare before falling over the line. And then she just got up like a cat, kicked the goal and said, we're still here.
Yeah.
We're still after this. And again, credit to North Melbourne. Their midfield, we already knew about them. But Talia Randall, who's I really would like to talk about, because for them, she's almost, North Melbourne's Dakota Davidson, but at the same time, I think she might be a little bit better. Watching her on the weekend, same sort of thing, the presence. I call her the Chief because she just attracts the ball. It's like, pardon me, it's like she's got magnet hands because they were just kicking it. Some of the leads as well and the ball use, when it was on, it wasn't on too much. In her path, you just know she's going to come down with a lot of them. She just is because, 6 marks and 2 goals in a 1-point win in a prelim, that is the difference. And when she's on, the Roos are just so dangerous, which we always knew they were. We always knew, and I always backed their ability to score and their midfield's ability to get this chick the ball. And, geez, she's outstanding. But I want to talk about this player. Absolute gun. My new favourite North Melbourne player, Jenna Bruton, the bolter. I'll call her a bit of a mosquito or a fly, you could say. She absolutely loves the light. When the lights are the brightest, she's turned it on. Not many would have picked her to turn it on. Everyone would have gone to the classic 1-2, Riddle and Garner. But no, Jenna Bruton was the leading disposal winner. But they weren't just accumulating touches. Every crucial play, and this is just from eye test from watching, every crucial play, I felt like Bruton had her hands on some of it or all of it. Because she finds herself in the crucial parts of it again and again and again. And she was the one that was generating so much of that run, whether it was the one that was taking the risky kick, the one receiving the handball, 28 disposals, game high, 7 tackles as well, and 5 clearances. So inside and outside player. That's exactly if you're moulding a player to come alive in a prelim and a grand final, Jenna Bruton would be exactly that. Just outstanding. And complemented by Shaq and Kobe. If you're a basketball fan, you'd understand that reference. Ash Riddle and Jazz Garner. You could also call it a handful for Brisbane because,
they are sensational. And each game, I was looking over the stats over the year a couple of weeks ago, and I'm there going, this is phenomenal. When you were talking them down, I kept trying to figure out, and I couldn't really. At the time, I couldn't really figure out. There's a reason why I should be disputing this, but I couldn't remember. And then I see you mentioned these two, and I'm like, hold on, Jasmine Garner is one of the best at the moment.
So numbers wise, no one comes close to these two as a 1-2 in the competition. They've done it all year, like you said, and this is what's turned the tide for me. This is what's got me on the blue and white bandwagon, because at the start of the final series, I remember saying, and this is me clarifying, these two are absolute genuine superstars, but I want to see them curl back their disposal stats and let others shine around them, and if they do so, they will go deep. And that's exactly what's happened, and I've absolutely loved it. They come into the finals probably having 28, 31, 30, 27, so high 20s, early 30s each game. Maybe a couple tackles, couple clearances, and you're like, whoa, mega, who's stopping them? but North weren't winning the games they needed to win. On the weekend, they both had less than 25, 22 and 21, I think. Didn't have many clearances, didn't have many tackles. They allowed Bruton to take on the heavy lifting. They allowed Randall to get use up forward. And what happened? North won. So they can lead the team better without having to do all the heavy lifting in terms of the stats. And that's exactly what they've done. So that's why they're so hard to stop. Because you've got to stop them dominating with the ball. But if you don't, if you do stop them, then North have got other players that have stood up around them now, which makes them such a dangerous team. And, pardon me, it actually makes me wonder, are they a complete team now? I think they were talking to a few players post-match on the weekend, and they were making comment of the mix they have. They've got excellent young players. They've got star senior players, and it's all come in together and mixed perfectly into this finals run. So I actually think, do you think they're a complete team finally in that top four?
Oh, well, I said at the start of the year that the big four were Melbourne, North Melbourne, Brisbane and Adelaide. And I think I said that because they were preliminary finalists last year. So to say that they're a complete team now, they made a prelim last year and they've taken that next step. I link it to say, if we're talking AFL terms, you could be saying that about Carlton. Like, what did they need to do to take that next step to a grand final? Well, I think look at what North Melbourne women have done.
It's a great blueprint.
Yeah, it's like North Melbourne women are absolutely amazing to get to where they are from. As you said last week, I asked you, can you put them in tiers? And I think you wouldn't be the only one to put them in the second tier of the teams left, but it was a case of they were almost an afterthought, and now they've got that chance to actually go, no, you know what? We're the team that you need to actually be most concerned about. So to answer your question, do I think that they're a complete team? I've thought that they've been a complete team for a while, in the sense of they just needed to have that opportunity, and I guess take the risks of playing that more defensive game that they've done and actually being able to back themselves in. And I think they've been able to back themselves in a lot more this season, and especially in the final series, that they're backing their teammates a lot more. Yeah. So, yes, they are a more complete team because of that.
And I think the crucial thing of the blueprint is just their courage and persistence to say, sorry, we are different.
Yep.
And we're going to play a little bit different to everybody else, and that's going to be okay. Even if we lose a few games to, the top three throughout the season, we're confident it'll all come together in the finals. If we work on those little things we need to work on, that composure late in games, that defensive structure, when everything falls into place, boy, we're going to be good. That's exactly what's happened. So, it's awesome, and it's awesome to see that come. Like I mentioned, I think I can't remember what the stat was, but I think it was something on the lines of 11-2 or 14-2 in their last games against the top three. And now they've, knocked that hoodoo off, pardon me, which is really good for their confidence as well. And, I mentioned all their key players. I do have to mention a few Adelaide's. And Danielle Ponta, who's now she's the leading goal kicker in AFLW finals history. Another 3 on the weekend. Couldn't really do much more. Every time it went inside 50 for the Crows, she tried absolute hardest to get the ball through the middle of the sticks. And on most of the occasions it was in there, she did just that. And did really well to try and fire up the Crows. And I mentioned Anne Hatchard before, who I just think is the absolute out-and-out big game player. She's easily top 5 in my books in the competition. Insane screamer and late goal to just do all she could to bring the Crows back. They needed that clearance at the end with not much time remaining, but they didn't get it. But she's had a remarkable season alongside Ebony Marinoff, who was great in that game as well. But yeah, the Roos for me, call me critical if you want. I'm not going to say they're complete yet. I'm going to wait for the weekend to play out, and then I'm going to make my decision. I think if I'm going to be uber critical, I don't want to be. I've got all my support behind North Melbourne. They've ticked all the right boxes, and I'm sure they will on the weekend. But you could say the win against Melbourne were never in good form for the whole finals. I don't think they scored more than
they
3
lost
goals.
the semi, obviously, so
bit iffy there. And that win against Adelaide, I don't think Adelaide probably had their worst game of the season. So
Yeah,
that's being uber critical. But who knows? Maybe that's North. We'll have to see how Brisbane come down.
So
and,
you're tipping
and
Lions
play.
then?
I'm not going to tip anybody because every time I tip someone,
I'll tip North Melbourne. Okay, so I can see you're hesitant.
I will tell you
to tip against them, but you're there going you're uber critical of them.
I will tell you it will be very close, and I will give you how the Roos can win. So I'm going to say they have to apply the same pressure that Geelong did, I think, to a higher level, and they have to do it for 4 quarters. We saw the Cats do it. They did it in the first quarter. They did it really well in the third. They tried in the fourth, but it just wasn't there for the whole game. And you have to bring it for the whole game because the Roos are so potent with the way that they play the game that if you sort of drop that pressure for a second, they'll hurt you on the run back. And then they'll lock it in, and then they'll absolutely kill you as you try and get it back out.
I think you're right in one respect that they have to apply elite pressure for 4 quarters, but not like Geelong did. I think you've got to actually look at how they've played the 2 finals. I think that's the blueprint for North Melbourne winning a flag. If they can play like that and get that energy and convert, I think North Melbourne are giving themselves the best opportunity.
And I think on Brisbane's side, I think it's just another day at work for them. I think they have to possess the ball like they did. Use that structure defensively, which was elite against Geelong. Geelong have great forwards. They've got midfielders that really like to penetrate that ball and use it really well. And they were smashing them out of clearance time and time again throughout the game. But they weren't able to score because Brisbane's tall defenders and their short defenders work beautifully in their defensive structure. Pardon me. I've been crook lately, so bear with me. I think if Brisbane are able to dominate defensively and use that ball control footy that they did on the weekend, that'll go a long way to them winning. And I don't like to call them old heads, that's a bad term, but they're experienced players, senior players, could really be crucial in this, especially late in the game, late in the third quarter. They call it the premiership quarter. So that's their way to take it out. And the Roos, I think they just have, like you said, they have to counter it by going all guns blazing. They've got their chance finally. They haven't won one.
I think both teams.
Why not do it? And it's going to be great to see which one wins out in the end.
I think both teams just have you say, how do you see a team winning it? I think both teams have to play the way that they've been playing because that's what's been working for them. And the first team that might crack under pressure might lose it.
I really like it. My favourite thing about grand finals is when you have something like this. When you have 2 teams who play under different mantras, coaches teaching them, different ways of playing the same game. And you often see the team that wins the next year, all the other clubs start playing like them.
Yeah.
So it's almost a battle between the 2 clubs, but it's a battle between the 2 game plans. And next year, if we see the Roos win, everyone will be trying to play run and gun. Well, next year, if the Lions win, everyone's going to be trying to play like them. So it's really cool to see that one game could affect a league so much, and I can't wait.
Definitely, because as you said earlier, the league is still fairly new. I think there's going to be a lot of taking chances and taking the moments on. So honestly, I can't pick a winner. I think North Melbourne are doing everything right at the moment. That they've been able to propel themselves into this position where they've taken on Melbourne, they've taken on Adelaide, and now they take on Brisbane, to the point where if they can just take their chances and take a few risks and it pays off, they could be holding the cup at the end of the day.
They sure could. And if you want to catch the action, it'll start at 2:30 this Sunday, December 3rd, down at Icon Park. 3rd finishing North Melbourne take on the 4th finishing Brisbane Lions for the Season 8 AFLW Premiership. In further news during the week in AFLW, great friend of the show, our cricket guru's favourite player, Monique Conti, was crowned league best and fairest in a remarkable season for the Tiger. Just dominant. Oh, won't forget that last game against the Pies. She was absolutely everywhere. So great to watch. dual sport athlete.
I was about to say, I think the most amazing thing about this is people talk about Erin Phillips being a dual sport athlete, but I think Mon Conti is often forgotten about the fact that she does play basketball when she's not playing footy. So, and she's playing in the WNBL with what team?
You have to ask Noah about that. I'm not actually sure. She was playing for Noah's favourite, the Southside Flyers. I'm not sure if he said she's jumped ship. She might have jumped over to Melbourne, the Boomers. I'm not quite sure there, but yeah, you can catch her in action and like quite soon, probably as well, which is crazy. So balancing it all along with her best and fairest medal, the first Richmond women's player to win one, quite remarkable. She came second last year, so following it up beautifully. And then I can't not mention the Giants' young superstar, the rising star, Zali Goldsworthy, who I think is going to be the best player in the comp quite soon. She had a few games this year where she'd kick a bag of goals, 10 marks, 20 disposals, has every single tool you could possibly want, and has that ability with her presence forward and her skill set to just take over, and not only take over, but absolutely dominate games and put games out of question in the Giants' favour. So congratulations to Zali as well, and to Queen Mon Conti. But that's all we've got time for in this week's AFLW wrap. Make sure you catch the grand final, and next week we'll be wrapping it up for you. But we're going to go over to the world of baseball now, and Woodsy, the ABL, still underway.
It is. It's round 2, so Adelaide have continued their domination, sweeping Perth in their series. Brisbane have bounced back after their horrid start against Adelaide in round 1 to win 3-1 against Sydney in their series. Melbourne had a good weekend in Canberra, taking 3-1. So looking at the big stats that matter, so 6 players are now tied in home runs, 2 each. So Josh Altman and Rickson Wingrove from Adelaide, Mike Jarvis from Sydney, and Daryl George Khalil and Robbie Glendenning, all from Melbourne. On the RBI front, it's a 3-way tie with Altman and Glendenning being joined by Cade Fergus from Adelaide with 8 each. The RBIs are run batted in, so whenever they hit a ball and somebody crosses home plate, that counts as an RBI for those who are not baseball enthusiasts. And the strikeout leader at the moment is Lachlan Wells from Adelaide. So as you can see Adelaide have good representation there. Obviously winning the championship last year. There must be something in the water in South Australia with the AFLW team also being there or thereabouts. But, I mean, Adelaide have only dropped 1 game out of 8. And each round there's 4 games up for grabs. So it's going to be taking something big at this stage to take the championship away from Adelaide. But hopefully the Aces can do so. They take on Brisbane Bandits. I can't remember who everyone else plays, but it's Melbourne versus Brisbane at the Melbourne Ballpark this weekend.
So an uphill climb for the Aces, but we're going to get around them as Melburnians ourselves, and hopefully they can somehow pull that crown down from Adelaide. But now we're going to go to my favourite segment. It is Aussies Around the Grounds, and this week it's a bumper. Aussies Around the Grounds. She's chock-a-block full. And before I get into my weekly wonder, I've got a special mention here. And I've got to bring out something else. I've got to bring out this old trusty, because I need to give a special congratulations to Inverloch Colmac's own Archer Reid, who's been drafted with pick 30 in the AFL National Draft. I coached Arch. He's my next-door neighbour in Inverloch. I've known him since he was a little tacker, and he's always been skilled. He's a great kid. And he's gone over with a fellow Reid, Harley Reid, the number 1 pick.
I was about to say Harley who?
Yeah, so they had a bit of fun with that over the weekend on socials with the old Spider-Man meme. But yeah, big Arch. He's a very tall lad, a very, very skilled forward in the air and on the ground. Definitely one to watch. Won a premiership with IK in the seniors this year, and now he's over in Perth. He's living with Elliot Yeo, and he's looking to get a place, I think, down the track. But first of all, he's looking to get into training and and really kick some goals over there. So congratulations, Arch. You deserve this 100%, and hopefully we get to see you in a similar Eagles jersey next year. Not as good as an Envy one, but hopefully see you in the blue and gold in 2024. So congratulations there. But my weekly wonder this week, usually I'm on the football scene. This time I'm going into the motorsport scene, and it's my man Jack Doohan. The Aussie has finished his Formula 2 career officially as a winner, taking out the feature race, the final feature race of the season in Abu Dhabi at the Yas Marina circuit. So that win has clinched Jack third. I've gone too early. Third in the Drivers' Championship in Formula 2, which is outstanding for him. And who knows, maybe we might see a third Aussie in Formula 1 sooner rather than later. But first of all, an incredible Formula 2 career for Jack. He's obviously going to pursue those higher ranks of motorsport now. He's obviously linked with Alpine. On the weekend as well, he was able to drive Alpine's Formula 1 car in practice, and he looked pretty good there. So congratulations to Jack. We're all right behind you, mate, and it's just making us all proud. Into the ones, the F1s, wasn't quite as smooth sailing for our man Daniel Ricciardo. Just lacked pace and seemed to never quite be in it. Still getting used to that AlphaTauri after coming in mid-season, breaking his hand, but he was in and around. I think he ended up finishing just outside the points, but no real luck there for him. He'll look to have a big off-season and do a bit of testing. They're all doing testing at the moment, I think, on tyres for Pirelli, and hopefully Danny can come back next year. It's a big season next year. I think there's about 24 races on the calendar. So, pardon me. So hopefully, Danny can come in and really get used to that car and get back to the driver he was when he was last at Red Bull. But the Abu Dhabi F1 race was, of course, won by Max Verstappen. So for the 19th time this year in the RB19, sending it off with a win. 19 victories out of 22 races.
Is that a record?
It is a record. So I could sit here and go through all the records.
Well, you mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, and you listed it, and it's a YouTube short if you wanted to check out all the records from...
Well, there's more now.
There's
more now, so
what
that's what I was going to say. If I was going to sit here and go through all of Max's records, we need a separate episode. But the Dutchman is obviously the champion, and on the weekend, 19th victory. He's now gone outright third all-time for victories, behind obviously Michael Schumacher, who's in the 90s, and Lewis Hamilton, who's on about 103. So, yeah, in a couple of seasons, he's gone from just a kid driving erratically in a Red Bull to a back-to-back-to-back champion with enough victories to sit him third all-time, which is quite remarkable. But our young prodigy, Oscar Piastri, out-qualified his teammate Lando Norris, which is awesome as well. Lando made a late mistake in qualifying, and he started on the second row behind Englishman George Russell, but he just lacked a bit of pace compared to Russell in his Mercedes and Charles Leclerc in his Ferrari, and got passed by them eventually. But at the start of the race, some of the defence from Oscar just, again, and I know I went on about it last week, just showed to me that he has got all the credentials you need. He just needs to stick around and just keep putting the work in, and he'll get results for sure, because defending like a real senior driver, and he's aggressive and he makes great moves, and he just needs that car to just have contending pace, and he's definitely going to be there. It'd be nice if they sort of gave him a bit more a bite of the cookie over Lando sometimes. A lot of the time Lando is preferred. He's a more experienced driver. He's higher paid than than Oscar, with Oscar being a rookie. But either way, great race from Oscar. He did get passed by those front runners who were Mercedes and Ferrari were fighting for P2 in the Constructors' Championship. But he finished sixth in the race, so great points for him and a great season. He finished ninth in his rookie year in the championship with 97 points, almost 100 more than the next rookie, which was actually Liam Lawson, who drove about 3 or 4 races for Daniel Ricciardo. So not a great year for the rookies outside of Oscar, but hopefully we'll see both Aussies at Albert Park next year on the podium. That would be an absolute dream. But about 95 days until the first race of 2024. That'll be back in Bahrain. But as for now, that's it for Formula 1. But congratulations to Oscar Piastri, P9 in the championship, and Jack Doohan, P3 in F2. But now we're going to go to the world of NFL. And Woodsy, I've just got one question for you. Are we riding?
I think we are, or at least for my team. I don't think there's any Australians in it since Adam Gotsis left. But I honestly, 5 wins in a row after being 1-5. I'm looking at the schedule and I'm like, there's only one game that worries me in this. So we realistically could win win 5 and lose 1. Detroit is the worry for me. The other teams are the Texans. We play the Chargers twice. We play the Patriots and we play the Raiders. So I'm there as a Broncos fan in Australia, just sitting there going, "Oh, could we get that wild? Could we get a wild card spot?" I'm not a dreamer. I haven't been a dreamer since Super Bowl 50, and there are, the Mahomes and the Eagles, exciting. The Mahomes Chiefs.
It's
are
tough.
Just amazing.
It's tough being in the Chiefs division, but it was massive. Stealing that win against the Chiefs at home.
I don't think it was a steal, considering it was a 24-9 victory. I think it was a.
Well, I like to think of it as a steal, just because you don't get, you don't upset the best player in the world very often, especially when he's as good as Patrick Mahomes is. But yeah, 5-0 run for Danger Russ Wilson and the Broncos. So Broncos country, let's ride at the moment. Let's see how far that plays out. It is a tough division, like I said, but yeah, definitely a smoky to put some form together and take the win. I think your defense has really improved. PS2 is an absolute gun out in the secondary, and you've got some rushers as well that are putting in some good work. And Russ has really finally found his straps.
Took him a while, but
I was enjoying giving him stick last year when he was absolutely hopeless. But him and Sean Payton are finally getting it together after, like you mentioned, starting 1-5. So they're second in the division at the moment, and although the Chiefs are in it, who are the second best maybe team in the NFL, the other 2 teams in the division are probably the 2 most untrustworthy teams in the comp as well. So the Chargers are literally known for losing one-score games. They've done it more than anybody in the last few years, always finding ways to lose. And then the Raiders, they just go through quarterback after quarterback, coach after coach. So you should pick up those wins, like you said. So I would be a little bit confident.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you look at the Raiders and the Chargers, and they're our bogey teams, the divisional teams. Chiefs have usually had the wood over us, so
yeah, I think it was something
you always go in there expecting a loss. But with the Raiders and the Chargers, at least this time round, I'm there going, well, Chargers have only won for the 4-7. So, as I said, it's a bit of an excitement to see Patriots have only won 2. Raiders are below us, and so the only worry in that would be the Detroit Lions, who sit 8-3.
Yeah, and win, like I mentioned, against the Chiefs. I think Mahomes was something crazy, like 18-0 against the division. The Broncos hadn't beaten the Chiefs in about 16 tries, so pretty cool for that to happen in that fashion. We move on to the Aussies now, and it was, well, something we get twice every year, which is pretty cool. It was an Aussie punt-off between the 2 GOATs, my 2 favourites in the league. And I don't like to pick favourites with our Aussies, but I have to. Even though Mitch Wishnowsky plays for the Niners, who I don't really like as a Seattle fan, he was outstanding in his punting duel with Dicko for the Seahawks, Michael Dixon.
Oh, he's your favourite, obviously.
As the Hawks and the Niners went head-to-head on Thanksgiving on Turkey Day, or Turkey Eve. I'm not really sure how it all works as an Aussie. Not really sure what Thanksgiving is all about. I think they just have a pre-Christmas Christmas. Either way, we got to see some football, and Mitchy Wish put on an absolute show. 5 punts, 3 inside the 20, and he had one that they actually highlighted. If it was a kick in AFL, it'd be horrible. He'd been booted. It was a helicopter. Went about 100 metres, it looked like, up in the air, and DJ Dallas was punt returning for my Hawks, and he had no idea what to do with it. It was spinning sideways. It was floating. Absolutely perfect if you're a punter, because he ended up fumbling it and nearly turning the ball over really deep in his own part of the field, which is exactly what you want. Punts inside the 20, near the end zone that you're defending. Near the end zone you're trying to score in, rather. And he was just putting up all sorts of balls that are really hard to catch. And for some reason, these NFL blokes are just no good above the head. They can't just jump up and take that mark
No,
like we do.
it's a different ball
They're
game.
not sure. They're not sure on the chest mark, so they usually just try and see it into the hands. And when it's spinning, they just have no idea.
It's a different ball game, and I think, as someone who watches a lot more AFL than I do NFL, it's one of those things where I think all the talk about is Aussies make great punters, but I'm there going, someone like Tony Lockett might be the exception because he was such a booming kick, but it's just because you're accurate doesn't necessarily mean it will translate into the NFL. So as you said, there's a helicopter type, just spinning around. You need to have that in your arsenal, and it's, as you said, it would if you're watching AFL and DeConning did that, or
Mackay does it every week.
I was going to pick out Mackay or Curnow. I was picking on the Carlton players, but if Max King did that for the Saints, it's 100 meters
there's a different
up,
goal, isn't
100
there?
meters up, and it's something uncontrollable. It's like you're frustrated, like you get frustrated at that, but then when it translates into another game where you're kicking to the opposition, so you want to make it as hard as possible for the opposition to mark.
Exactly
I can
right.
really see that being such a skill, and obviously it's paying off when the Seahawks weren't able to really fire up then.
No, the Niners are a very good team as well, and Mitch Wish has been doing this for years on end now. So is Dicko, who was great as well. 5 punts, 1 inside the 20 and a 59-yard long, which is pretty good as well in the Seahawks loss. But it really is organised chaos. It is just controlled chaos when you're punting the ball. And the best are able to find new ways to innovate the position, innovate the sort of punts that you're putting out there, because your main goal is, 1, to land the ball inside your opponent's own 5 or own 10, own 20. But at the same time, if your punt's going to be caught, so if it's not going to be a touchback, it's not going to go out of bounds. If you can't kick it far enough to get it out of bounds, or on the deck, pitch it. If it's going to be caught, you want it to be chaotic, and you want the punt returner to be under heaps of pressure, because you've got to think about it. It is hard. I should give him credit. There's about 20 gorillas.
You want a lot of airtime. You want a lot of airtime, is what you're saying.
And they're charging at him.
Yeah.
And there's balls in the air, and it's spinning all these which ways, and they're not born on a massive ball, 30 metres in the air spinning. They're not born to catch those. The game is, catching a flat pass from a quarterback or a lob pass. So it isn't easy. There's a lot of people charging at you. But yeah, if you can create chaos or pitch the ball inside the 10, then or the 20, that's what you're looking for. It's a lot like golf as well. They liken it to golf all the time. So yeah, all-time punting matchup as it always is. The Niners got the win though, which I guess I wasn't really too surprised at. I thought we'd give it a bit more of a crack. Geno, the Seahawks quarterback, was pretty banged up. He's got a right elbow injury, which is his throwing arm, which was tough for him. But yeah, that Niners team is just complete. They've got a top 3 defense as far as I'm concerned. They've got a top 3 offense in terms of their weapons. And the Hawks, although we're on the come up, we've got a lot of young stars, just weren't able to get that win at home. So unfortunately, we've lost that first matchup. We actually play them again as the fixture goes in a week and a half. So a tough run for the Hawks at the moment. They sit in playoff contention at the moment. They were actually atop the division a couple of weeks ago, but have lost a couple with that no-show really in Baltimore, and then that embarrassment at home against the Niners. The Niners have retaken the division, the NFC West, and now the Hawks are still in the playoff spot, but their run ahead is pretty tough. The Seahawks have still got to play the Cowboys this week on Thursday Night Football, which is very tough considering that's another top 3 defense. The Niners again, and then the Eagles. So the 3 best teams, you could say, in the conference, the Hawks have to go through if they are to make the playoffs. So very tough. I'm going to have faith in Geno and the boys, but I wouldn't be surprised if they bump out of playoff contention in this next slate. The Niners, on the other hand, heavily favoured as the best team in the NFC. The game versus Philadelphia, which will be this Friday, Australian time. This weekend. This Sunday or Monday morning, Australian time, is really going to tell all. I think it's 1 versus 2 in the conference, which is huge for those with Super Bowl aspirations or trying to pick who's going to play in the Super Bowl. Philadelphia and San Francisco this weekend is massive. I'm a little bit skeptical on the Niners, and it's not just my bias against them as a Hawks fan. I just think they're unproven in the playoffs with Brock Purdy at quarterback. Obviously, he was a rookie last year. He started a couple games, but he was injured and then didn't really play at all in the conference championship game against the Eagles. So it could all play out this weekend and it could dominate, but who knows? I don't really back the Niners. Either way, looking to the other Aussies, we've got Jono and the Houston Texans, who have been the absolute surprise packet of the comp and probably the biggest surprise packet in sport for me this year. They were awful last year. They could not generate any offense. They went through about 3 quarterbacks. None of them can do it. They couldn't stop teams from scoring. They got run up on like no tomorrow, and they could not have been any further from a win. This season, they've defeated teams that not only have winning records, but have Super Bowl aspirations with a rookie quarterback and a wide receiver 1 who is also a rookie. And the two are breaking numerous records. CJ Stroud is the guy's name, the quarterback. Highest yards in a game by a rookie a couple of weeks ago. And I mentioned he's beaten just numerous teams, and Cam Johnston is his punter, doing it beautifully, the Aussie. So really, really easy to support the Texans at the moment.
Well, it's one team that I actually overlooked when I was mentioning the Broncos is we actually play Texans this Monday. So you've got
huge game. Where is that one?
I believe it'll be an away game, but I'll have to confirm with you. But it's had me a bit worried because I did overlook them when I said the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Raiders were the ones that I think are the easy wins, and Detroit being I don't think we will. But then I think Texans is the 50-50 game, and I mean having an Australian on the other side, it doesn't help because I want the Australians to do well, but at the same time, obviously not against your own team, just like Wisniewski.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to be a huge game because the thing about CJ Stroud and the reason he's broken all these records, pardon me, is he's not scared. He throws the heck out of the ball and they get into shootouts and he doesn't mind because he's so confident as a rookie. And he was picked 2. Bryce Young was picked over him and he doesn't care. He just plays the game. There was all this hoopla about it at the start of the season about how he failed his IQ test and cognitive test and all that. He said, I just play football. And he's came out and he's just played football. It's so cool. I absolutely love the guy. I should have drafted him in fantasy, but either way, that's a different story. And him and Tank Dell, his wide receiver 1, both rookies, leading this Houston team to the playoffs. And they probably are going to make it. This game, as you mentioned, a home game against the Red Hot Broncos is going to be huge, 5 a.m. Monday at NRG Stadium in Houston. And the Broncos are $2.50 at the moment, Woodsy, if you want to get on them there. Just a little quick one for you, but that's going to be massive. And then we've got the main man, Jordan Mailata and Philly. Well, the Philadelphia Eagles, they're back, and you know about it because it's Philadelphia. And their fans are crazy. And on the weekend, they played the Buffalo Bills, who's everyone's danger team for a number of years. Everyone was saying Josh Allen and the Bills, they're the ones that can beat Kansas City. Again and again and again. The Bills came into the Lincoln Financial Field, Philadelphia. It was absolutely bucketing like it was today in Melbourne. And they went to OT because Jake Elliott, their kicker, bombed the 60-yarder in the torrential rain, which is just mind-boggling to me. And they came out in overtime, and Jalen Hurts, their quarterback, who is an absolute superstar, rivals Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the league for mine. 3rd rushing touchdown of the game, wins it for them in overtime, and they take that one. And Mailata just does it so well with Jason Kelsey, who's lauded as the best center in the league. They say they're the best offensive line in football. Our man, Jordy Mailata, is part of that. So that's really cool to see. Philly, who I think are my team that can knock off Kansas City if anyone else is going to. There might be a Super Bowl rematch down the track. They're looking really hot. They've obviously got Adam Falalo, the offensive lineman for the Baltimore Ravens, who are a bit of a surprise packet. They've always been quite good since drafting Lamar Jackson at quarterback, but they put it together a really good season. They've got a little bit of a patchy offense, especially without Mark Andrews, their star tight end and Lamar's favourite target. But Falalo's doing beautifully, and the Ravens can really do damage, I think, in this playoffs because their defense is really strong as well. And obviously, I can never forget our man Lou Headley and the Saints. Not really in playoff contention at the moment, but Lou's having a tremendous season. And again, what a story he is. It'd be nice if he could just, let his quarterback know that he's better than the way he's playing. But either way, the Saints are still in and around. Their division's quite a soft one, so if they string some wins together, they might be able to steal a wild card spot. I'm going to do my rankings now, Woodsy, and as someone who's a pretty one-eyed Broncos supporter, probably doesn't have the knowledge that I do about NFL. That's probably fine to say.
I'll agree with you, and I just wanted, before you hear them, I've got no expectations on the Broncos, so I'm interested to know where you're going to put them.
Well, I'm actually going to ask you, because I was thinking of a quiz this week, and I thought, why not ask someone who probably doesn't watch too much NFL, which is not a bad thing at all. It's very early on a Monday morning for an old fella like yourself. I want you to guess my top 10. That's the quiz this week. So my top 10 power rankings as of right now in the NFL. And all you have to do is just guess the teams. You can give me what spot they're in for an extra point as well.
I'll go Chiefs as number 1 and Eagles number 2.
So the teams are correct, but I have got Philadelphia at 1, Chiefs 2.
Okay, well, still. I'll go San Francisco.
San Francisco is number 3. So just to justify that, I think Philly, I guess the top 3, the offensively, defensively, the out-and-out top 3 around the league. You can interchange them if you like. Philadelphia, I think, just get the edge at the moment because they've won some pretty big games. They got over the Cowboys a couple of weeks ago, which is a huge divisional game, massive. The Cowboys' defense was playing crazy at the time as well. They got over the Bills. I'm pretty sure they beat the Chiefs at home as well, which is quite massive for them as well. So just that form for me puts them 1 at the moment. And Jalen Hurts is absolutely phenomenal. Plays with insane confidence. Can throw the ball, can run the ball. 3 rushing scores on the weekend as well. And then the Chiefs, obviously, they're never going to be lower than 2 for mine. The defense has improved since last year. They've still got the best player in the world. Kelsey's always going to improve. And then the Niners at 3, like I mentioned before, don't really trust Purdy. He's a little bit unproven as a sophomore player. So I've got them at 3. There is 7 to go.
I'll go I glanced at the standings without knowing this was coming ahead, so I didn't take note of them, but I did see that Detroit were 8 and 3, so I'll have to have them in the top 10. I don't know what ranking, but I'll have Detroit.
So I've got the Lions, lucky last, at number 10.
Oh.
So just to go over that one, I think their offense is really potent, and I think Jared Goff can have games where he absolutely slings the ball and they blow teams out of the water. I think Aiden Hutchinson on defense is really causing havoc. Their secondary's improved as well over the offseason. Dan Campbell, my favourite coach in the league. If you don't know him, for those that don't really follow it, he's basically just a big tight end. So he's this big dude. He's not your conventional, strategic coach. He just fires them up, and he's all about energy, and he's all about risking it, and it's awesome to see. He's got a really nice goatee as well, which is what I was trying to go for. But I've got them at 10 just because over the last month, Jared Goff, as quarterback, has really let me down. He had a few picks against, I think it was Chicago or someone like that a couple of weeks ago. And on the weekend, he turned the ball over a few times again. Fumbles a little bit as well at the moment. So just at the moment, they've fallen down my rankings. But 6 to go, Woodsy.
Well, I'm actually trying to think of the teams and no idea where they are. I know you've written Baltimore strong and will contend, but does that mean that they're in the top 10? I will actually go with Baltimore then.
So I got the Ravens at 6. And like I mentioned, probably already justified that one. Mark Andrews is a massive loss. I think the target share, so the amount of times his quarterback Lamar threw him the ball for a duo, was the highest in the league since he was drafted a couple of years ago. So losing that sort of player, losing someone who you always look to throw the ball to, is pretty crucial. They were able to beat the Chargers on the weekend, but that was a one-score game, and they always lose those. So their defense is really, really scary. They absolutely dismantled my Seahawks a few weeks ago. So I think that will really set them really far. They've got some exciting rookies, Zay Flowers at wide receiver and Keaton Mitchell at running back. And I'm never going to doubt Lamar Jackson, absolute superstar of the league. So I think in the playoffs they can upset someone. But at the moment I've got them at 6 just because of those question marks over the offense.
This is where I struggle because I'm going through the teams. I'm going to go the teams that aren't any contention because if I glimpse at where they were,
You're halfway there.
I know. I'll can discount the Chargers, Raiders, Patriots.
Yeah, they're all out.
Yeah.
The Patriots are good for about 31st at the moment.
I'm trying to figure out like who are the other teams that are in it, and I can't think. I know the Broncos aren't going to be there. If you've got
If I was going to put the Broncos in right now because of their form, I'd probably have them just outside the top 10 at 12 or 11.
I couldn't see the Broncos because they're tough division.
If they win on the weekend, they'd probably jump in.
This is me not knowing any of the standings. I'm going to go the Cowboys.
Cowboys are number 5. So, obviously, the last couple of weeks, that loss to Philadelphia probably jacked them down a bit. They were closer to my top 3. But I just think there's always room where they will. I think they will finish. They have potential to finish in the top 3, but they're just unproven against good teams. They're one of those teams that really love to beat up on the teams below them. And then when they play someone that's a real contender, they don't usually win those games. We saw it earlier this year. They got absolutely belted by San Francisco. They went into Philly. They got defeated by Philly. And then they come out and they flog Washington on the weekend. And obviously they're going to do that because Washington are no good. So this week, they've obviously got my Seahawks. If somehow we were able to come out and win that game, I think the Cowboys fall even further. But I think the Cowboys will resoundingly win that. They probably won't see them move, though. But I've got the Cowboys at 5. Defense still, the defense is ceiling. They can be the best in the league. And the offense has been way better than I've seen a Cowboys offense in years. CD Lamb, the best receiver in football, according to him. But his connection with Dak Prescott, his quarterback, outstanding as well. 4 to go. Buffalo sits down at number 9, just ahead of the Lions. They've had a few unfortunate losses. I really did think they played well enough to win the game on the weekend, but since changing over their offensive coordinator, they've come alive again, and you see the confidence again in Josh Allen to try and take over games. He's a game changer. He's got the ability to be the best player in football. He does lead the league in interceptions, though, so I probably can't have them higher than 9th because of their record and because of his mistakes and because of they've got a lot of injuries on defense, so they're at number 9.
Once again, this is where it comes trying to figure out who the other teams are and trying to figure out. Think of the divisions, no idea on them, and
just think of cities if you can.
No, well, that's what I'm doing. Like, I'm going, okay, well, I can name a lot of them, but it's no idea if they're good or not. Like, I can go Green Bay, Chicago, New York. Like, I can name the cities. I can name the teams.
Yeah, they're all. I probably have all of them. Yeah, bottom 15 for sure. Maybe even outside the 20 range. We've got number 4, who's.
Hold on. So how many have I got left?
Number 4, number 7, and number 8.
Okay, can you give me? Because
So
I won't
number
go.
4
Can you give me division and divisions?
Number 4, a team from Florida,
Well,
but not from the capital city. Well, not from the big city.
I was going to say the capital city of Florida. I'm not sure is. I was thinking Tampa Bay. So
Close, not Tampa Bay. Young quarterback, long blonde hair.
means nothing to me, mate.
No?
So Florida. So
Made the playoffs last year. A mascot is a big cat. Also a car.
Jacksonville.
The Jacksonville Jaguars, I've got at number 4. The pieces are finally coming together.
Yep.
They've got Zay Jones back from injury, which has been crucial to unlocking Calvin Ridley, who's their addition on offense, the wide receiver. So he was back to his best the last couple of weeks. Yes, they might not have played great defenses, but I just think Trevor Lawrence is a special player, their quarterback. Again, long blonde hair, superstar player. I think the defense really troubles teams. I think teams roll into Jacksonville or, see Jacksonville roll in and think they're not a scary defense, we should be fine. And the defense turns up and gets 3 takeaways, a couple interceptions, that sort of stuff. And Doug Peterson is an absolutely phenomenal coach. He brought Philadelphia to that Super Bowl. He knows what he's doing. He's brought, after the fiasco that was Urban Meyer's coaching stint in Jacksonville, he's brought them all the way up. They had that awesome playoff comeback last year. So I've got them at 4, and people might say that's high, having them over teams like the Cowboys and the Ravens. But I think they can really do damage this year. I think it's time for Trevor. He's a winner. He's won all through high school, all through college. And I really like their team. ETN's having a massive season as well. Number 7, another team from Florida. Don't overthink it.
No, well, it's either Tampa Bay or Miami.
You said Tampa Bay already.
Yeah.
So it's the Miami Dolphins with Tua Tagovailoa. They're at number 7, and they're only at 7 because, like the Cowboys, they just seem to not win games against teams that are contenders. And I would really like to see that happen before I put them any further. But it is without doubt the most dangerous offense in the National Football League. Tyreek Hill is an absolute megastar. They've got the 3 quickest players in the league. They've got this stupid stat that if you look at the fastest ball carriers, so the fastest speeds achieved by players in the NFL, the top 10 are all Miami Dolphins, and it's only 3 guys making up the top 10, all the top 10 fastest. So it's Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill, and Raheem Mostert. So 2 running backs and their wide receiver. And Tua is really accurate. He plays so well in that offense. I like their coach, Mike McDaniel. He's an absolute character. Then their defense is coming alive. I've got them this low because they had a few injuries. They had crucial injuries to both their lines, their offensive and defensive lines. But the return of Jalen Ramsey sort of boosted them up to that 7 spot because he's back to his best as well with a few picks in the last few weeks. So I think they're probably the smoky. But again, Tua's unproven in the playoffs, so I'm not even sure if he's been. So they sit at 7 at the moment. You've got one more, number 8.
So what division?
So the same division as Jacksonville. But keep in mind, divisions aren't really necessarily location-based.
No, but it's...
Young team.
I can figure...
May have been mentioned already.
That means nothing to me. They're going...
Sorry, forget you're old and your memory goes.
Well, what state? Or does that give it away?
Texas.
So it would be Houston?
It's the Houston Texans.
Okay.
They are at number 8, just ahead the Bills, and it's really all on CJ Stroud. Their defense I don't really trust, which probably sits them at 8, could sit them lower, because they do seem to always get in shootouts, especially late in games. But this kid, game-winning drives with seconds on the clock, insane long touchdowns, passing records, all the confidence in the world. And I've got the Texans making the playoffs, which is just insane to even talk about. They'll have the Rookie of the Year and they'll have the Coach of the Year, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they win a game in the playoffs. So they round out my rankings at number 8. So to go over them once again, power rankings of the NFL, 2/3 of the way through the season, at the end of week 12, 6 to go. Philadelphia, Kansas City, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Dallas, Baltimore, Miami, Houston, Buffalo, and Detroit had my Hawks. And your Broncos just outside after falling in the last couple of weeks.
Well, I'm glad I didn't look at the standings, actually, because I would have picked 2 teams just purely based on the standings, and they are Pittsburgh and Cleveland. So I'm surprised that they're not even in 12th.
It's quite remarkable that those teams are doing so well, because and it is a sort of momentary rankings, and if it was on the season, Cleveland will probably be in there. But at the moment, Cleveland started their rookie quarterback. They were without their starting quarterback. He was injured a couple of weeks ago. He's out for the season. They started their rookie quarterback, who's quite good, out of UCLA. He was injured on the weekend. So they're down to one quarterback. The offense, they're down their best wide receiver. So their offense is pretty much not running. Their best offensive player at the moment is probably their kicker, which is not what you want. Same with Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett's their quarterback. They fired their offensive coordinator and they finally were able to move the ball on the weekend. But I just don't have any trust in either of those offenses, so I can't put them in the top 10. But 2 of the best defenses in the NFL, and that's why they sit where they sit, because that Browns defense is absolutely phenomenal. Myles Garrett is my favourite defensive player. Outstanding, absolute game wrecker. Same with Watt and those Steelers. So they will continue to win games in that division and around the league with their defenses. but I don't trust their offenses, especially as playoffs come up.
Well, I'm excited to see, as a non-NFL person, I think now's the time I'll start following a little bit more, and then I can actually have a bit more input in whether I agree or disagree with these rankings. But I'm excited to see how much they change week to week now, or between now and the playoffs, because I feel like NFL is such a sport where it will change a lot because of it. As you said, it's more in the moment, more week to week than AFLW, more than those other sports where you do take the whole thing because of it's more of a team-based. NFL, from what you're saying, is a quarterback goes down, that can disrupt the whole thing. Yes, okay, a star player goes down in AFL, but if we'll use Brisbane Lions for example, right? If Dak Davidson plays or not, might not be the deciding factor of the game, whereas Patrick Mahomes goes down for the rest of the year, you could almost put a line through the Chiefs because it disrupts it so much more.
Yeah, it's a very interesting sport. Obviously, 5 a.m. Monday mornings, you can catch the start, and also on Fridays at about 12:15. And as my voice starts to leave me, Woodsy, at the end of Around the Grounds, we've just got a couple of updates. Around the world, the Davis Cup. Well, our Aussies made the final, unfortunately did not emerge victorious. Runners-up in the Davis Cup to Italy, who had a really, really good tournament. I think at one stage they might have even knocked off the GOAT. I think Novak might have been around. I think I heard him complaining, which must have been he was there in some capacity. He likes complaining, but either way, unfortunate for our boys.
Oh, you say unfortunate, however, I actually think it was a great effort to get there, considering I can remember discussing this a couple of months ago now with you, and it was when we qualified for the actual this part of the finals. Was we lost, and I think we lost to England, or we lost to one team, and it looked all but like we looked gone, and we just we just struggled to get over the line. We got over the line, we regrouped, and we played in a final. So I think
it's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, but what a great effort.
Australian way, you're down, but you're never out. And we've seen teams in the green and gold do that so often this year. And someone else who is representing the Aussies at the Aussie PGA, Min Woo Lee, champion. Australian PGA winner. So congratulations to Min Woo Lee, and unfortunate commiserations to Cameron Smith, who just didn't have a great outing.
I think he actually missed the cut, didn't he?
Yeah, he was apologising. He was pretty embarrassed, I think, for his play the last couple of weeks. But yeah, congratulations to Min, who was the winner. And that is all we have time for. Obviously, I should mention we've got the Matildas up here. They're in Canada at the moment in camp. So keen to see our Matildas and our Socceroos, as we always say, progress towards the Olympics next year in Paris. But as we progress to this weekend, and what a massive one it is, make sure you catch the NFL, ABL, all the other things that are going on around the world. AFLW Grand Final will be back next week to recap it. Go Lions, go Roos. See you next week.